Hello to all. Asur'Ana and Per are here at the awesome Phong Nha Kea Bang National Park in Vietnam. Per and I are delighted that you can join us this lovely afternoon wherever you are. We've already spent 2 weeks in southern Vietnam. We'll be here for another week before heading back home.
Hello to my sweet spiritual family. It's wonderful to be back to Vietnam again. The last time I was here by myself and visited Ho Chi Minh City, or formerly known as Saigon, in autumn of 2018. I've visited this beautiful country about a dozen times throughout the years, starting in 2000 for business as well as in search for my spiritual roots. I just knew that the love of my life was from here. We were staying at the Phong Nha farmstay. The farmstay is in a rural location with a stunning view of the countryside overlooking the emerald rice paddies and the mountains. The staff are the loveliest people and treated us like family. The rooms are spacious, exceptionally clean and very comfortable. The variety of food and beverages are delicious on all counts for every meal. Everything is so easy and relaxing here.
Today, we are receiving beautiful Dao blessings from the canyons of Phong Nha Kea Bang National Park in the photo here. In the park was a dream gifted to someone Asur'Ana loves very much, who is her cross-age twin known as Jaskantar. Some of you have read his lovely poetic story in Light Wave 8, We Dream of Atlantis. It was in this very park that Jaskantar appeared briefly to Asur'Ana when she visited the park with her family at age 7. He informed her that she and her family would immigrate to the US for a new life in the West in about 2 years, and that he would reconnect with her many years later when she's a spiritual teacher and ready to share his story about Atlantis. With delightful surprise, Per and Asur'Ana just discovered yesterday that the caves and caverns of Phong Nha Kea Bang National Park interconnect with Lofoten, Norway, and Åland, Finland. In a mesmerizing display of light synthesis, with gates of superlative to mellifluous, fostering of synergy. These regions are beautiful estuaries of Tao remaining from Atlantis. Gates motion through time and interconnect into Atlantean natural world wonders that parallel in beauty and grace. Atlantean systems are still relied upon amongst those self-developing to foster your transfusion systems and light motion of field. We have something else to say that these webinars were scripted by Jaskantar, who, in looking at you through time, felt you needed to understand things more sublime than perhaps even Babaji or Baba would teach, because he felt there's a working reality that is very necessary for motioning in light, And so these webinars foster healing with Taos that follow the script of his understanding of light motion in this cycle, so that you can learn something else about yourself as a star seed. He was a big C too, related to Asur'Ana's anthology, and when he incarnated, he was very, very gifted at understanding psychological principles of realities. He wrote and published many books and was rather famous for his literature in the end of his life. For those of you that haven't read Jaskantar's story, please go online and go read it again, because it's beautiful poetry in motion. It gets you in a motion that waves in light wave synergy rather than sparks just up and down. Because many of you transfuse just up and down, and that's not really good for you or your health. You should wave and organza and sway more. And so we're going to work on that with each of you, not just in this webinar, but also the webinars we're going to present ahead. The next webinar is on existential realities, and it's a beautiful system of how to synergize your reality to be gracious and wonderful and not experience sourness or strife or some other problem you're having in life, and create realities that hold boundaries better in light wave motion and light wave sway. So that's one of our goals with the next series, that's emerging. Some of you know that for the past couple of years we have been living in Mesa, Arizona for 6 months out of the year. The other 6 months we live in Alta, Norway. Mesa, and so is Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon, are a part of the expanded notion of beautiful estuaries of Tao remaining from Atlantis. These regions interconnect with Lofoten, Norway, Åland, Finland, and now Phong Nha Kẻ Bàng National Park in Vietnam. The Atlantean gates provide a healing estuary for each visiting in dreamtime or in physicality to renew and revitalize your health and foster an overhaul of your light motion systems into a new system that is more succinct and beautiful to live and dream within. Traveling to these regions in dreamtime or in physicality will also assist you to understand the concept of how the theme of the stories of your life play out, which is why Asur'Ana and pair moved to the Gold Canyon Mesa region so that they can be in the storyline of lights to foster their webinars. The storyline of you is the storyline of you and not somebody else. And then you don't end up in a sick play with the people you work with, or the people that you danced with, or the people that you care about in your life, such as family or other people that you know. And that's the purposeful mission of learning how to be in your own storyline rather than somebody else's, because the other storylines emerging in light are rather ill for this human population. They don't understand light, and that's not your problem, that's theirs. The need to be whole and in you is another purposeful mission that Jaskantar said as he finished his ethereal existence. Jaskantar retained an ethereal body for maybe 800 years after his lifespan was over physically, and that's what Asur'Ana knew. He could communicate with her through gates and also help her and pair in their transfusion. And that was a big gift of a twin that she loved deeply and swayed with doing light infusion. For those of you that received light emotions or light infusions from the Dreamtime Ascension School or DAS, they were conducted somehow through Jaskantar through time, in addition to Babaji and Baba, and all the joy and all the wonder of what spirit really means, which is what he wanted you to feel if you were infused by him. He's not with us anymore due to things that changed in his own ethereal structure, and he needed to go to firelight. So he went from an ethereal structure to firelight when Asur'Ana can't locate him anymore. But he left the legacy of these webinars so that you would understand more. If you received an infusion from him, bless him through time, because he was there for you then and can't be anymore. But he was a very, very gifted and astute human that wanted to know what happened to his twin that should have been born in Atlantis, and found her, oddly enough, in this cycle and feeling out of place in this oligarchy society. So he helped her and pair to learn to transfuse above the murk and the mire of the planet so they could go home free to be with their seed. And by the way, Jaskantar is also Pair's cross-age twin flame. That's true for each of you ahead too. You need to be with your seed as you go home. So we're here to talk about life unfolding in a psychic sense, such as how does it work when you dream your dreams with people. We're going to take this into a context of who you are. There's a life script that pours over you, and the script should be coming from the Atlantean gates because you're a seed, but it may not be. So today we're adjusting your storyline to show up from the Atlantean gates wherever you are, because in reality there's no time and space, and connecting you to one of these Atlantean gates may help you to better dream your life ahead. Alright, we'll talk to you about storylines. You have a script inside yourself, and it's a wheel of possibility that's in your heart, it shows you all the characters you could know in addition to who you do know. And the characters have a script too that's broadcast from inside of you, inside out into them. So hopefully they play that role and not something else. If you're a gifted Tao dreamer, then you broadcast what it is you wish to broadcast on top of people. And a lot of times they may light, emulsify, or brighten up, especially if you add more light to your dream because you're broadcasting on top of them. That's a mechanism that occurs either through the third eye or through the heart. Some in your genealogies broadcasts from your mind, which is a third eye function, and some of you broadcast from the heart, which is a just function, but is also with care rather than mental astuteness. Sometimes people will feel very cared for in your presence if you broadcast care out of your heart. Those that project out of their mind may be thought of as very astute and very gifted. Jaskantar projected out of his mind and found his twin, Asur'Ana, broadcasts out of her chest, and so it was a very different oscillation of dreaming themes and scripts. Asur'Ana wrote a lot about Baba themes of stories, and there's a few more to fill out his dream stream. But that was for humanity, and the truth is, it cracked, unfortunately, and isn't broadcasting anymore. The Yogananda fables, which are arcana-natured, are broadcasting, and that's what those motioning light, even little light wave children, are dreaming at this time. There are scripts for community and a theme of elegance or a theme of something that causes some kind of inspiration in their minds that they want to motion towards. And at this time, they are the main light wave dream stream. Yogananda themes are okay too, but Atlantean themes are more sublime. So we're going to switch your wheel of scripts today towards Atlantean fables, and this is going to alter the nature of the cast of characters in your life. And where you may witness it most closely is if you're in a marriage or a partnership, to see how that affects your partner. If they're a seed, they'll shift gears into a system that works for the two of you in Atlantean fables. If not, they're still in Yogananda dreaming, their life script, and your broadcast may alter their behavior or their nature or something else that you're not expecting at this time. That's a gift of the seed system and all the forces that are coming together to bring you home. They can't leave seeds incarnate or reincarnating on a planet that's dying. That would cause a lot of problems to the holographic nature of the DNA and other life scripts and everything else that your ancestors and other creations would have to live through too. So they don't want to do that. The governing forces of Dao and Tao are seed systems, and we know your seeds were meant to incarnate in one of the following three creations: creation of Walihara, creation of Jariano, or creation of Fashri'i. Please see the article titled Star Seeds Archive 6 of the Light Wave 6 Mother Sun Dream and Star Seeds for more information on these creations. And some were meant to go to be in Atlantis like Per or Asur'Ana. If you're an Atlantean seed, then that's another problem altogether, because you were meant to be born in that cycle here on Earth, and wherever you were to contribute couldn't be grown into their world either. And so that's sad for all concerned, that somehow something happened in time or in gate sequences that brought your seeds here rather than to their destination of origin. That was a much more graceful light emotion creation. Here is still very harsh, and we're going to try to adjust that some within your own seed casing to make it more blessed to be alive. Now, Asur'Ana and pair function in Mesa is to phosphorus and fuse those that come to see them in dreamtime in this region. A phosphorus infusion in your casing brings about a big change in which it can be far gentler in the light emotion of you. So please think about that in the DAS events we are holding, perhaps in the autumn, or for a private retreat with them in the summertime, because we are gearing up to help your light be more even. Coming to the Mesa Gold Canyon area in dreamtime for an infusion would foster that within your sea casing, and then it would be gentler on your health in the coming 4 to 8 years. To attend the phosphorus infusion events in dreamtime in the autumn or summer, the simple intent to participate just prior to drifting off to sleep will allow you access. We have many things to say today about the nature of the reality of fables and scripts that you live in Atlantean thinking. In Atlantean thinking, there's 3 things that go on. One is that you have an assemblage point that judges you in a particular direction. It judges you to sway or care or be at peace or find compassion or find your passion in life and what you want to charge of and do and dream, or find something else that is self-realization oriented so you can introspect over whatever you're charged about or wherever you're going up to do in this world of yours, to see where you're headed and what you really need to do to fulfill upon your life script. So within the Atlantean fables, you receive a life script that's seed-oriented and not something else in Yogananda fables. So we're going to put you in Atlantean fables today, in a blessing from Jaskantar from the canyons of Phong Nha, in this beautiful scene that we have up on our webinar. The scene is one of that you're an infinite human that can be anywhere you need to be. Anytime you need to be. You don't need to be where you're living. You can be in Lofoten, in Phong Nha, in Åland, in Mesa if you need to. And you can be elsewhere with Dao and Tao to receive healing if you need to, including out to sea, because in the sea are beautiful Dao patches for healing star seas. Asur'Ana has some ocean scenes from Kauai, and they captured one of those themes, and sometimes that will be up again as a photo for a webinar so you can syncopate into another place in time and space and not where you are living. There's a reasoning behind that, because then you discharge all the other things that collect in time around you from friends or family or work or whatever else you're up to, and then you can let go more. So move yourself in time and space here into a beautiful purge that we created for you with a beautiful Tao of the Nemesis teams. You each received a new Tao as of last night that is from the Nemesis teams, and they're here to help you go home because they don't want to leave you lost upon earth. And in this zone, you can discharge everything that you have known with the Yogananda fables or the Baba fables that you have lived in this life of yours thus far. Now, when Baba fables died, you clicked into a Yogananda fable that may have been earlier in your life and continue to live that dream stream. But now you go into Atlantean fables and receive a whole new script that's very amazing for you to witness or experience in the wheel of characters for your life. There are many reasons that you really want to be in a Star C script, because life doesn't work out very well if you're living a script of something else. That's hard to explain, but it's really true, because the scripts of Yogananda may not resonate with your archetype at all, because your archetype has a nature similar to the tarot deck, and the tarot deck describes the nature of those that are in power in this society and not you. Even the decks that showed up from Mayan and Incan or medicine wheel systems of Native American thinking aren't really a script for you either, because you aren't a part of that culture, although you may have resonated more with native scripts or Hawaiian scripts that were natural world-based, and you thought yourself as a vulture, turkey, or an eagle, or something else, and said, "Yeah, I'm that way, and that's who I am in my play, so I'll be a natural world script." That worked well for Ascension, and it was a beautiful theory, but it really was from a native script of medicine people and not really anything else, and that's not of your culture as a star seed at all. And so it's time to discharge the native scripts if that's what you've taken on, or the Yogananda scripts of the major arcana of the tarot, or any Baba script you have remaining that is another kind of tarot related to Tibetan thinking. Yogananda's more mainstream, king and queen oriented, and Baba was more spiritual ashram oriented scripts for humanity, and Babaji depicted those in many of the articles he wrote for the website. But people don't relate well in any kind of theme of an ashram because they don't know how to get along in this cycle of mind detriment. This cycle of the oligarchy society is a huge mind detriment. Something happened to the DNA with all the substances dumped into the sea and the water that might not have been a problem if it weren't for all the techno-gadgetry and industries that produced too many things that nobody really needs anymore anyway, and keeps harvesting the planet until it dies, and all those other wonderful things we know are going on in this play of this society. The society is in a death stream to kill itself, and that's why they harvest too much and over procreate, and you're here to witness it as a seed. But it's time to let it go as a theme of anything of you. So you let go of the theme that you're part of this society, and Yogananda scripts, or Baba scripts, or nature scripts, or medicine people scripts, and you say no to all of it. You're going to close all the doors or gateways or pathways to those scripts inside your seed system today. And the beautiful new Daos that came in from Nemesis reorganized you to be more present in your seed casing. So they're seeding you back in your body and not somewhere else. And they're helping you draw back to you the things that maybe you have lost to others and these other fables because they're always needy. These fables are always needy because the oligarchy society is needy since they don't have all the information with them or left it in another galaxy or whatever you would want to say about it. But it doesn't help you to lose your gear or lose your life stream or lose your life map or lose any of this stuff. It's a little by little we're reconstructing it all with you and for you and point it out so you can do something else. Some of you may have lost your wheel of fables altogether. Where did it go? Sometimes we never know, but sometimes we do if it's the neighbors or someone you work with or something else that's hit your life. It can go to family too if you have lightweight children that need one and suddenly you give your life script to them, and then you're devoid of it for your life, and then you're devoid of the things that you might want to do that are really true to the script of you. Now, if you have seed children, and some of you do regardless of age, they have a new Dao of Nemesis that will help them into their casing, and they'll receive a lot of the healing that you are receiving, and you don't have to worry about them anymore. So it's time to let go of the gates to your children and know that they're safe with a Dao of Nemesis who is taking care of them too, as all seeds are being prepared for homecoming within its own casing. This should have been a part of your life all along the seed casing, but something went wrong in the connection to the seeds to their own systems, and it's plagued your life in other ways because you have had to be part of the script of perhaps Shathar's ascension medicine system, or maybe Yogananda in his Arcana system, or perhaps something else when Baba's system was present. Wherever it is, those systems didn't align your casing and didn't align you for a sense of wholeness and a journey home to you to understand you before you discharge this life. There's no point to a life for a seed unless you understand you motioning in that direction. And so we're putting you back together to understand yourself and understand who you are in you. We're not going to write the Atlantean stories. We're going to produce them verbally as a webinar essay about what those scripts are like, and your archetype will catch a particular drama related to the Atlantean parables. And if we share of other parables, it's because they intersect or intertwine in some dance with Atlantean themes, because Atlantean themes of star seeds kind of took on some of the themes from Yogananda, Baba, and medicine people through time, and wove them into their cast of characters because something about it maybe wasn't whole and complete, since you weren't born in Walehara, Jeriano, or Fasri'i, or where you're supposed to be in another galaxy where the themes would have been complete for your life dance of the script you're supposed to play, and the players supposed to ordain, and then things you're supposed to do with people, and all the things that you can imagine that you didn't do because you may have ended up in a script of something else that wasn't your truth at all, or isn't your truth at all. Sometimes you can have a major life awakening and flow up into your script. Asur'Ana was one of those that realized she wasn't here to be a school teacher after 10 years of that, and flowed up into her script of being a psychic and a healer, and then starting a school with Pear and presenting all this information for Shatar at first, and then later for Yogananda and Babaji. And now she's presenting new webinars for seeds on information that's really Atlantean oriented. That's better for all of you because in a way it resonates with your own archetype to be in an Atlantean script and not something else. we're going to have fun with this verbal article on how to be here for yourself and understand the wheel of scripts inside yourself enough to know how to modulate it in you and with others. And so at this point, we're going to go into a meditation. If you want, you can have music on that's beautiful and enjoy it in the backdrop of you for the meditation. Try to close your eyes and get yourself in a lounge chair or on a couch. Don't worry if you fall asleep, because if your Tao takes you out of body, there's something else to repair in you. Come back to the recording later and listen to it again if you need to. We'll go into many directions about how scripts and fables work within your life, and you will begin to see why it lines up the way it does. Whether it works or doesn't work, seems to work, or is okay, or is not okay, or you want another direction, and etc., etc., etc. about any life of each of you, because you're beautiful people to Asur'Ana that she cares about a lot, thinks about probably a lot more than you think of her, just because in her own storyline you're a part of her wheel of characters. She's only one character to you, but you're a wheel of characters to her, and that's sometimes an interesting study all of its own, because you're all very unique in your life focuses. You live in different regions. You really don't know each other except if you foster an event together. And that's very unique too in an international display of starseeds who are beautiful to each of us Taos too. You're beautiful to us, so love us and smile more, and know that your life will be better as we continue to heal you in this lifeline of yours today. So lean back and be quiet. We want you to sink deeply into your heart and deeply into a space of consideration of who you are, because in this space in your heart is a space of you, where you know yourself intimately as the person that you are. Sometimes this voice space of knowing you, in you, is cracked or murdered out or damaged, or some things ramrodded into your heart perhaps a while ago, and you couldn't get it all out. Today we're going to move out things, the cramped void space of your chest, and open it up more and fill it with new void that's beautiful in a green caress of self. So the green is for harmony and is a common void on the planet. Pear and Asur'Ana have gotten to filling themselves with white void, and if you've been filled with white void because you attended our DAS events or Dreamtime Ascension School events, please stick with putting white void in your chest, because that's better for you. There are many things to say in your play about who you are in the cast of characters that you are, but we're going to adjust the script of you, in you to be what it should be in an Atlantean fable of your heart and not necessarily your mind. The reason that we foster the archetypal script out of heart space has a lot to do with where you want to drive your life to be filled with care and filled with love and filled with people who understand you and not something else. And that's hard to do from the mind in this kind of society. Another society is fostering your archetype from the mind is a very gifted way of self-realizing as a clan, as a tribe, but we won't do it that way because if you foster your archetypal script from your mind, chances are you will create people who are very odd with you or odd in some way that you really don't want to experience in your life. That's just the fact that Ananda figured out as he came to form his ashram in California. He started there and really strange people came to his ashram. I mean really strange, like near mentally deranged. And he was very upset by that. Then he was guided to come to Bryce Canyon for a retreat, and he stayed at a little lodge nearby and not in the park, and later realized that he needed to broadcast his dream from the heart, or he would call strange people to him in his life. That changed the ashram. He flushed the people out and let new people come, and they were more stable in his life to be there for him and not be scattered or whatever the problems were that showed up. Maybe in the East, coming from the mind is different, and people respond to it differently because Buddha was a very mind-level script. So perhaps that worked for him in Baba lore, but it didn't work in other lore fables like medicine people fables here in the West. And so in retrospect to that, run it from the heart because then you create care with people and not something else, and create people that in their own care of you do what they say they're going to do and not something else, as that could be very difficult for you otherwise. The other thing that is important to understand is you're the center of your wheel of script, and some of you are like on the sideline or one of the characters in your life rather than like center stage of you. That can often happen in job corporate sequences where you're working for some corporation and you're on the sideline of the script in your work gear, but at home maybe you're center stage. We want you to move yourself center stage both at home and at work and stay there because that's needed by your archetype. And we're going to tell you about your script in general. The C script is one of affluence, of a certain level of power, a certain level of truth, a certain level of care space that you can share, a certain level of understanding of the industry that you work within, or your family dynamics at home, or the siblings that are important in the friends that you associate with, or a spiritual journey that you may be in. And for many of you, your spiritual journey may be more important than anything else. And if anything comes next, is what you're doing at work, if it serves who you are in your spiritual path, and what you're doing at home with your children or your spouse in the care space of you in this life of yours. So the next wheel of people or significant others around you as a center cast of character. They'll be your spouse, your husband or wife. It could be parents, but perhaps not at this level of your life. But if you have a seed parent, she'll probably be there or he'll be there, and that's very nice. Or a seedling parent that really cares for you, and if they're still alive, they may still play a centrifugal role around you, along with your children, if you're still raising them or have interest in their lives, along with significant others. I mean, your spouse obviously would be there, or your long-term partnership, but also what's here may be others that are beautiful to you in the friendship or the kinship of your lifeline. Twice a year, in summertime and autumn, we're going to start giving phosphorus infusions in DAS in the Mesa, Arizona region, where we're going to work with small clusters of up to 6 people because that's best. They harmonize and you get an amazing infusion, and then other things unfold in your life thereafter, because life aligns better in light after you have a phosphorus layer around you. We'll also do 2 other things about that for each of you that are there. It's a very beautiful, gracious light to emulsify in, because your seed system will all come together in phosphorus, and unfortunately, phosphorus isn't available in many places on Earth. A lot of it is out to sea, and that's kind of hard to get to unless you had a boat, and that would be hard to navigate anyway, because the sea doesn't really have names on it, parts on it, or anything else. So anyway, we're going to say something too about this wheel. It's going to form today for your inner circle, and the outer circle is the other cast of characters that you maybe don't hold close or near or dear to your heart, but you work with some. If you're a healer, most of your clients are going to be on the second level of circle unless they're a beloved to you or really sacred to you, as almost like a pseudo daughter or son or kin friend that you just really love. So if you have clients or you have people you know and you don't really care deeply about them, put them on your outer circle and leave them there, because they have less affluence over you in that position. You're going to see that you have dark characters, light characters, and medium characters out there. In your family, there's a dark character in the inner circle that's there. Move it to the outer circle and leave them there. If you have children, look to see if they are in a light position. in your inner circle, or are they in a dark position for some reasoning that you need to heal within you, okay? Because it's all about you, it's not about them. But if they're dark, then you put them in a dark position somehow. So move them to your outer circle until you figure out what's going on in you that causes someone to end up in a dark position that's near to you. And if it's your spouse or your partner, then you will have to look at why you placed them in a dark position in your life. There are times that this can happen in life, and I won't go into it. Don't take it personally if that shows. Be aware that something about their script is dark to you, and you need to change it in you. And when it changes, it will pop clean and they'll end up in your inner circle or your inner foray of dream again. Foray is a dream cast. When you foray for a dream, you cast a hook and you draw it to you. And that's how Shatar defined foray for Asur'Ana a long time ago. That does work even in this society. So in a foray, you foray for what you need, and then you dream it within you, and then you broadcast it outside. We're going to have you do that for anything you're in need of at this time. If you're in need of more clients because you're in sales or more sales, you foray for it and draw it to you and bring it into the outer cast of characters that might include your clients. If you're in need of more clients as a healer, you foray for them and fill them in your outer circle. If you're in need of a new job, you foray for it and you bring it to your outer circle. If you're in need of a partner, you foray for it and you bring it into your inner circle. And if they go into a dark position, put them on the outside until you can understand what's going on for you to do it that way. That's an issue of about male-female or male-male dynamics or female-female dynamics if you're gay. And you have to deal with it in you that you put your beloved in a dark position or a medium position when they should be in a bright position with you. It's hard to describe. It's an internal issue between the male side of you and the male side of another, or the female side of you and the female side of another. And you have to go into that programming and discharge it. And then your partner will align better for you. And so your significant other should be in a bright light position, period. And your children should each be in bright light positions if you have children. And if you have a mother or father, that's a ceiling, or grandparents that are C's or ceilings, they should be in a bright position. So all the characters around you that are significant should be bright light only. And we always have issues to process, and we always have things to forgive, and we always have things to understand about the nature of light, medium, and dark on a planet of such huge extremes. It's so huge that it creates hell on earth, sometimes in places like Beirut or Palestine, and that's very, very sad that you have hell on earth, and sometimes inner cities can hold hells or hellholes that are very dark for people to live in, like Harlem. There are many places that hold hell gates, and the new white, gold, silver ray and powder starts to close the gates and throw them off planet. The light wave kids are going nuts with that powder, putting it everywhere they go and everywhere they see, and when things leave or explode above the planet, they all clap because they're so excited that the darkness is leaving the planet to give birth to a light cycle ahead. They're just thrilled. There are other things that are needed to suspend the planet differently to allow that light cycle to be given birth to, and then the seeds are being collected up because it's really not a cycle ahead to reincarnate into. We don't know what's going to happen on the planet at this point. We won't go into the details of that because they're very, very sad. There are forces coming in to try to repair it, and it's still unknown if they're able to, because the planet's way off its axis, and it could flip the poles or send the poles in different directions. Edgar Cayce predicted that once long ago that the poles would shift, and that may be true. He was part of the oligarchy society, and he was reading their futures and thought that would happen. The North Pole might end up over the equator, and the South Pole over the equator, and then I don't know what will happen when that starts to freeze and the other starts to melt, and then your ocean swells and all the things he spoke to. They thought that would happen ahead, and that's not a planet any star seed is supposed to stay on. So you're to get your act together, live your life, learn about yourself, and then go home. And I'll say that very directly as the Tao nemesis. This is not a place to remain. Be aware of that, and take care of you to make sure you grow yourself home and not some other direction, because this is a very sick place ahead as a planet, and no place for a star seed to remain. And so in this cast of characters, you're going to see probably a lot of darkness around the infrastructure. The people in your school, college, hobbies, other places of association, or your workplace. Sometimes there are things in people that trigger you deep within yourself, and you don't care for them, and they're in a dark spot perhaps in your association. So let's highlight the people in your life that are in dark or medium spots and know that there's something big you need to forgive within you about how you witness them or how you perceive them in this world of yours. There'll be an overall theme about this that we can work on some during this webinar, because people in dark cast of characters is something that generally irritates your mind stream. So people in dark positions have a mind stream that doesn't agree with you at all. And if they're very aggressive or if they're a lover, sometimes it can actually make you sick for a day or two or a week because their mind stream doesn't really align with you. If that's true, I wouldn't advise them in the lover position or the beloved position, because that's not really good for your health in the long haul. So find somebody else to be a beloved that agrees with you in a bright spot of you. But whatever it is, mind stream has three characteristics to it we'll go into in this current society. 1, it mind bows you, and it can mind bow you into an anxiety or depression, okay? Let's annotate with a red dot if they mind bend you into depression, and annotate it with a yellow dot if they mind bend you into anxiety. It will just go up on your screen so you understand why you don't like these people. However you know them is you're either anxious or depressed in your association. They're your dark cast of characters, and they have a mind motion that causes this to your cortex. So it's not something they can control. They just have a way of motioning their systems of mind motion. Some of them do a zigzag. Usually the zigzag mind motion will lead to anxiety if you're around them too much. And usually it's a cross motion where they cross their mind that leads to your depression. You can choose to shut that off and say it to each of these people. I don't let you mind bend me anymore, and cancel the dream to allow them to cause you to be anxious or depressed in this life of yours. You might be surprised to see who they are. If it's a child or somebody significant to your life, like parents or grandparents, you understand why you really don't want to see them over the holidays. If you're living with them, you see why you rather have them in daycare or preschool or away somewhere than near you. That can be hard on Cs, and we know it. If you love them, then probably they're in a bright position for you and they don't mind bend you and you're okay. But you can choose not to be mind bent by anyone, and then the people that were dark may turn into a medium position of life unfolding. So highlight in yellow all the people in the medium position, and if some turn from blue to yellow, you know you fix something about mind ball with that individual you associate with, and you may not feel as negative about them as a result. That's useful too, especially for children or people you have to see regularly that are in family. Don't move a medium position into your inner circle. That's not good. Sometimes parents and children have to be on the outer circle if they can't be in bright light spot of reality for you. And we'll go into the medium scripts a little bit. In Atlantean scripts, you're the center stage and you command your dream. And you command it very well with your inner circle of care space of the people that love you the most and mold the beautiful bright light. So in that infrastructure, that's a love space that holds or suspends you in your reality, so you can dream in merriment and dream in care and dream in the things that you would like to dream rather than something else. And that's beautiful for you too. So know that your inner circle strengthens you and doesn't weaken you, as long as they're in bright light theory of scripts of Atlantis, that they're a support system to help you live your life and not a negation of your life at all. And so we explain that about significant people. If they're in a medium place, it's because something about their mind motion doesn't agree with you. Now I'll say it this way. If you have a friend or a workmate or a boss or a family member that is in a medium position, you can enjoy them for a time. You can spend an hour with them over lunch and it's okay. But sometimes you're going to come back feeling tired from the exchange because maybe your mind is leveled or it isn't burbling up into flowers anymore. That's what the medium position people do, is if they spend too much time with them, you don't feel very well. If you can be with somebody, like over the course of a day or a weekend, and feel well, and feel nurtured, and feel beautiful, then that's a bright light person. With some people you may never spend that much time with to really know if they're bright light people or not. But a part of you senses it because your mind syncopates into airstream or flower together in a way that's beautiful for you to experience your life within. If your mate flowers, then you're beautiful. You're beautiful to each other. If your children flower and your mind flowers, then you're beautiful to each other. And it's really amazing to experience whatever you're experiencing. People flower together very little in the society that's oligarchy. Perhaps 1 out of 30 of the light wave children flower anymore. That was very disappointing to the Tao of the seas and the Tao of the planet to witness that something's wrong and something in their minds want to spark an X or arc, and then they mind bend each other into anxiety or depression. Sometimes some of these classrooms get very auspiciously overcharged and kids run off and do temper tantrum things. An associate of ours has a son who was like that when he was younger, and they put him on Ritalin, and that calmed him down. Later, he grew out of it and became a very different S-wave pattern mindset that's much more calming for people to know. So people can mature out of the sparks, but some can't. Adults do run them, and sometimes as they age. The person that ran the nice S's that you can get along with suddenly sparks as they get into their elderly years, and then you can't stand to be around them hardly because their minds deteriorated, perhaps because they lived too long. This is a sick society that extends life way too much and has medical practices that keep them alive longer than maybe is right. There's nothing you can really do about it because it's not your choice to tell somebody else to die. They have to choose that for themselves. So let them go to your outer circle and let them not mind bowl you or mind bend you anymore, and then it's less difficult to be in their association if you need to be. But with the medium people, too much time with them generally vampires you, and you wonder, well, how does that work? Well, if you feel a certain loss of energy, you understand that people need to know who they are, and you're a curious seed, and so you're always poking into them to know who they are. I mean, who are you really sitting over this table at lunch with me, or over a dinner, or in a meeting at work, or wherever it is, and you spoke into them in a way that doesn't really allow you to not be drained. So here's a suggestion for you as a seed. Quit poking into people to know who they are. It's better to look through your window or look through your mind and see them in your third eye for who they are, then poke into them to know them and then be drained. So the medium people drain you because you poke into them, and the mind bowl people make you anxious or depressed or even suicidal in some cases because you let them arc a flame from their cortex to yours. Now, this is what Asur'Ana and Pear learned a long time ago in DAS events. You take that arc that wants to mind bowl you because you're on center stage and you bowl it back. So you send it and arc it in another direction, and then generally it goes up and it dissipates, and then they can't do it very frequently because the mind bowl can only be generated perhaps once a day. So if they mind bowl at you to make you anxious or depressed or fearful, because it can also come out of fear, then you blow it back and it discharges, and you're probably okay with that person for the rest of the day because they can't generate enough motion to do it more than once. Now, if you ask your mind, which is a whole other thing, and then you go flat, that can lead to just extreme discomfort. You don't like the person at all because they just make you extremely discomfort. What you need to do is take the X off and discharge it, and then your mind will straighten out and you feel better. They can't generate that more than once a day and only to one person. So you can also link them up to someone else to mind bend other than you and see if that helps you. Because you don't need to be mind bent with an association that you have to see every day at work or live with you at home. It's very confusing with mind bend because you don't know why suddenly you feel how you feel because you've been mind bent in an action that isn't really good for you or your cortex. And over time, if you live with somebody who mind bends you enough, it can give you strokes, probably in your 40s or 50s because they're not good for you. You need somebody who can sell and sing with your mind to be near you, and that needs to be your beloved always, and children too. Sometimes children can't. One initiate had problems with her son, and she let him go to be raised by his father, who had less of a disturbance with him than she did because he would whack her hard all the time until she maybe died of an early heart attack. So sometimes we can't be too close to people who don't flow with your mind. There are two ways people will flow. Either their mind will flower along with you and you will think similar spiritual concepts and want to talk to each other about spiritual things. If they do the S pattern, you can match it and kind of sing and sway with them for that duration of however long you're together and understand each other. It won't hurt you at all because you can go from the S pattern to flowering. Most likely you don't flower at work as you're doing objective things that are societal, and the S pattern over the cortex works. There's another pattern that Babaji really liked, which is a circular motion that is generally clockwise that goes around the cortex, and that's wholeness theory. If you can think in wholeness when you work, then it's a project you really like. If you can think in wholeness when you go to work because it's not really what you like to do, or you rather be doing something else, chances are you're running the S wave to function in a manner that works with whatever you're doing. If you're behind a computer, the S pattern is perfect because it discharges the electricity out of the mind and out of the nerves. The computers don't affect you anymore, nor the cell phones. So it's an okay pattern to run. It doesn't disturb the mind, but ideally you probably like to flower or run wholeness theory, but you have to feel the divine concepts to flower, and you have to feel like you're in wholeness with what you're doing in order to run that at work. If you don't feel like it's whole for you to do whatever you do, then perhaps it's time to really think about changing your occupation in another direction that feels more whole to you. We would recommend that for any seed, but we know for some of you, you've been at work and maybe even facing your retirement in time, and you can't really change professions very easily in your middle age. It's perhaps easier in your youth. So if you're in your 20s and 30s and you don't feel like you're doing something, it is really helpful to you to go in another direction if you can. S pattern won't hurt your cortex, and there are people that would like to burp it too, and they'll be on the dark list of your cast of characters. What they do is they burp the S until it phrases and goes silent. And then the mind bends to the left if you're depressed, and the psyche motions to the left too. The psyche is a front, back, left, right motion always. Front, back, left, right. Front, back, left, right, to keep your mind straight. So what happens when someone mind bends you is they crack your S pattern first, and then your psyche stops moving, and either it sits to the left where you feel depressed or gloom, or it goes to the right where you're anxious or fearful. If you get motioning again and get your wave patterns going again, then you lift right out of the mind band, and that can be a really useful understanding. You take a break and get a cup of coffee, because the other thing that happens with coffee, for those of you maybe even a little addicted to it, is it will force your cortex to fire again, and then your S pattern will show up, and then the mind bend is over. Black tea can do that too. There's some black teas that are very helpful for mind bowl, one of which is like orange spice, because there's something in the cinnamon or the other spices that will add to the ability of the cortex to not mind bowl. The other is chai tea, which has become very popular, that has the 7 spices of the Orient in it, or the East, and it's very, very good anti-mind bend food or drink. Be careful of coffee more than once a day, and switch to orange spice or chai tea for the rest of the day. We'll explain to you about a blood issue, because too much coffee in the blood can make it thin and lead to migraines or other problems in the blood flow. Chai tea won't do that. On the other hand, a chai tea can regulate the blood flow very nicely because of the 7 spices in it. Drink it with coconut milk or soy milk rather than cream or regular milk like they brew it in an Indian restaurant, and see if it helps you feel more organized in your life. Chai tea can lead to wholeness motion in the mind if you're focused on something that brings you joy. Then you feel whole, and then perhaps if it's really joyful, you will flower, and that's beautiful for you. Now, there are people that will be the blackest of black, so they're ultra black, and they're going to be outside your other ring of people. If you know someone like this, you may or may not, and they're anti-flowers. They're anti-flowers. That's a very sick position to have people in, even your outer circle, because what they'll do is throw something at your cortex and cause it to cease to flower. If you're not flowering and there are anti-flower motions from someone in your life, then you need to let go of or cancel. So you need to cancel that anti-flower person or people or whatever they are. So put a big red X out of whoever shows up on the circle outside your main circle of associations and look at who they are, because they're not people to go near at all. Unfortunately, if you're with a big staff of a big organization or in school where there's a lot of people, then it may be hard not to cross their paths in classes or in something that you're doing that fosters your business. Just ask them in the Atlantean theme of reality that says you're a not. So if you come here, you're a not, and you don't affect me because you're not in my play. The people out there, outside of your circle, are not to be in your play. And if you have people that are big disturbance to you in a mind bowl, then you put them out there and you ask them, and you will kind of know it because they really leave you feeling uncomfortable when you're near them. People who grow sometimes to be big bosses can go into that position and try to mind bowl others into subservience or whatever that they need to be in order to be in power. Some bosses are ingratiating and want to care and nurture people, and some aren't. And some are half and half, but whatever it is, if they mind bowl you and they're your boss, they still don't have to be in your play, even if they direct the office. So put them there anyway and don't worry about it if that's their nature. They're just not going to be in your play, which means they don't have any effect over you. But you're still going to retain your job, and that may worry you. But don't worry about that, because the play will include enough people you work with day to day that are kind. Maybe they're bright lights, maybe they're medium lights, and you know not to spend too much time with them, and know not to poke them too much to see who they are, and then you'll be better. And if there's enough characters that you work with who retain your job anyway, because it's still a part of your play. Now we'll speak to plays in a very unique way, because plays are like a revolving door. They have scripts for each person. So as you get up and set your day, the revolving door opens. The people you're going to engage with as you go about your work or with your family, if you're home on weekend, or with friends if you're away with them for a weekend, or your beloved for that holiday, or wherever you are. And it opens up, and the cast of characters that aren't going to be there for this day of yours fold because they're not going to be there. So on the weekends, the cast of characters that work fold all of them unless you happen to know them privately. Then another storyline opens up that has to do with family or friends or lovers or whatever you're doing on your day off, and they simply switch. It's a natural switch within Atlantean system, and it's a revolving door of scripts that put you on center stage in relation to you and them, and you simply say, well, this is the script I'm going to give you today in the joy of me as an Atlantean theme of my archetype. And you will dream on top of people then for your weekend or with your beloved if they're not a seed, okay? I'll explain it for non-seeds first, or even seedlings, that you dream on top of people to align the dream to be the way you need it in your Atlantean script. It's a very forceful motion. You'll be surprised if you've seen Asur'Ana straighten things out in a DAS event. You understand sometimes the force with which she can push a script back on the group to align it for whatever healing is to be received or whatever needs to be done for a particular action. And so she and Pear always dream on top of you at their Dreamtime events because they have to in order to align it into a script that is useful for what it is you were to be healed through. Webinars are kind of like that too. Each of you are dreamt on top of not by them, but through the Tao to be in alignment with the webinar healing. That's better for you to receive that play for this duration of healing. And if you can rest into it, it's generally better than going out with people after you're done with listening to this webinar. If you cannot listen to the entire webinar in one sitting, then come back and listen to the recording again in the evening or when you have time to receive all of the healing as you rest. Because if you have to go somewhere after this, it will probably get disturbed. So here's the thing about your scripts. Suddenly, the window panes open and you're going to work. You know who the cast of characters is you need to engage with in your job, and you will align them in a position of a script that works well for you. You don't worry about how they relate to anybody else. They can do whatever they want to do with everybody else. But for you, they don't mind being you. They are present for you. They work with you towards the common goal of whatever you're striving for. they foster some kind of mission over which you can foster the direction of your work. And if you're doing something else, like creating a musical production, then you force your script on each musician until it all comes into harmony. Or if you're out in the world having a meal, you force your script on the chef, on the waitress, and on those near you in the restaurant, or those present at your table to align for you. So that's how Atlantean scripts work. They align it for you in a mind bowl of you. Now this is something not unusual for seeds because you're very good at mind blowing people often to getting along with you, and you've been doing it since you were a child. So that's not new. Perhaps in your associations, people really like you because you always make them like you, because you mind blow them into a position of liking you because you prefer to be liked rather than disliked. But every once in a while, there are people you cannot mind blow, and that can be disturbing to you because somehow you can't get them to be gracious with you or whatever it is you would like on the other end of their behavior. Chances are they're a dark character that mind bends you, or deflowers your mind, or desyncopate you in some way that isn't good for you. And you put them into the knot position, and then they cease to have an effect over your plot, or your life, or your mind. So that's how Atlantean scripts work, and it's an assemblage point motion similar to Castaneda system. Castaneda knew it very well as a teacher. He would flip people this way and that way and up and down, around, and then suddenly he was okay. Maybe they were and maybe they weren't, because he was a very forceful character with his assemblage points. But it left him in the better position, and he learned it in an art of his own that was very transfigurative on top of that. So he transfigured them into a knot if it was a problem for him in a group or a class that he had to associate with. Being a knot in a class is like you're not there and you don't receive the healing. You don't receive anything. Asur'Ana has never really done that to anybody in any Dreamtime workshop because there's no point of bringing you together if you can't receive the healing. But we'll explain one thing about this is that groups you associate with can mind blow you too. But generally, there'll be one or two that are extreme people who may deflower your cortex or bend it to an extreme out of each group association. And if you put them in a knot position, they cease to afflict you. You can kind of examine that if you put faces on them, spheres that we're talking about in your inner gallery of observation. We know some see internal to self and others don't. Don't worry about it if you can't see internally. It's totally fine if you can sense it within yourself and learn to muscle test. When you're done listening to the webinar, muscle test who is it that needs to be in a not position in your life. Who is it that is a dark position that you need to not allow to mind bend you anymore? Who is it that mind bends you into depression? And who is it that mind bends you into anxiety? Then learn to discharge it if they show up in your world, at work, or at home, or anywhere else, and then the mind bend will stop, and they will be more of a meeting person that you can see from time to time and not feel injured from. And here's our other position, and that is to understand that something else needs to occur in you and in us and in everything to live your life, okay? In order to live your life, you need to understand who you are in yourself and in your world and in everything that is gracious or beautiful in you. When you understand what grace and beauty is a non-mind bend. You can't be near a mind bend person and stand in grace and beauty or even flower your cortex. You have to be in a position where you're free and clear to motion your cortex as you wish to, and as you heal the issue that causes you to be mind-bent, then you're freer and better to know yourself in you. There's a direct correlation to not knowing you when others mind-bend you. This is where the story, the plot, and the play get kind of thick in the oligarchy society. So if you have a child that mind bends you into nurturing him or her all the time, and they want to sit on your lap and don't love you or return the love that you have for them. Instead, they mind bend you into nurturing them when you need to go do something for yourself. Then that's a mind bend into nurturing. And if you don't give to yourself over time, the body withers in that position, even if you love your child. That can be true for a beloved too, that they mind bend you into taking care of them. Then you move them into your apartment or your house, and then suddenly you start to wither because they need you to nurture them and nurture them and nurture them, and in a way that drains you. So the mind bend of the nurturing one can be very, very draining on the physiology in light. We might suggest that you choose to look at, in all cases, who you are and what you are in relation to your nature and in the nature of you. If you're the one that wants to be mind-bent into nurturing and caring for someone, and that can be the healer position that we've talked about before then it's time to take on an Atlantean script that doesn't put you in that position. It just doesn't put you in that position. Therefore, it's important to each of you to understand who mind bends you in one direction or another that causes you to lose steam or lose your life force or lose your chi, okay? People who swell and sway up with you and motion this way or that way with you will generally be the ones that nurture you into more energy. These are your bright light people in your life, that they swing and they sway and they don't mind bend you. They don't necessarily need you, but they love you anyway, and they heal you, or they help you grow, or they help you expand into who you're becoming and not something else. With any person, there's still karma, but that's good for you to know that those are the ones that won't cause you to wither in life physically. You have to be careful about those that cause you to wither in light, because it can happen very rapidly that you end up with blood cancer or some other kind of problem. So it's important to watch yourself in relation to others, like who gives you steam. You call them closer and even put them in your inner circle if they work with you. I mean, who at work is a bright light person. Put them in your inner circle because they give you steam daily as you gather with them or you work with them in a way that's helpful to you. Watch out for the ones that vampire you and let them go into the outer circle. And if they're really bad at it, then put them in a not position and let them go. But there's also something about you in your role that causes you to be vampire, and the healer role is one. The caregiver role is another. The role of being a supportive agent of life, which is often a masculine role, can be another role of Yogananda, where you're just fixing everybody around you. You're a supportive agent of life, and that's kind, and people really like you, but it can kill the body through time too, because it's too much that you're doing for everybody else and not doing enough for you in yourself. And so giving up that role for something else in Atlantean script is a wise one. Most of you are in one of those three roles. You're either healing someone, or you're nurturing someone, or you're a supportive agent of life. And you can kind of muscle test for yourself which role you are. Understand that the Atlantean role is symbol. You're the soothsayer of you. Just be the soothsayer of you that you would be with you, and don't worry about everybody else. Quit fixing them, and you'll be a lot better. there are 6 Atlantic roles that work with seeds, and we'll explain each one now so you can put yourself in the role that feels right with your Tao of Nemesis and with the Tao of the Well system that's been working with you for a while. Within the last 3 months, the Taos before that time folded and faded on the planet due to disturbances we can't control, and that's very sad. And bless them, but you are always supported as seeds by something that shows up in your window pane of life, because you're sacred to Tao. So the first Atlantean script that could be one for you is the one of the brilliant motion of light, where you're just a bright spot in yourself. Now you have to be very gifted at transfusion for that spot, and not everybody is really gifted at transfusion. Some of you transfuse very heavily and are very gifted at that, and some of you are marginally gifted, and the bright spot can dream anything in its light it wishes to, in a direction that it would foray for. So that's the right spot for you if you're very gifted at transfusion. That might be the role that you take on, and for everybody around you is always a bright dream because you transfuse it into your reality that way, and they have a better time and you have a good time, and everybody gets along, and so on. Castaneda himself was in that role, and he never left it. Asur'Ana is in that role so she can transfuse very heavily if she needs to, and not all bodies can handle that level of transfusion because it would wither your cells. So you don't go into that role unless you can really handle transfusion. Out of the DAS group, there may only be 4 of you that might be gifted at that. The second role is the gifted agent of existence. When we get into the existential work, you will understand that role if that's your role, because what you do is you flip existence around to work for you and work for the other party. And then suddenly the dreams align and everything can go the way you envision it. So the gifted agent of existence works with existential principles to align dreams into existences that work well with others, and many of you are actually gifted at that possibility. So look at that and muscle test it, and if it's your role, then that might be a good one for you. And as you learn about existential principles, you will understand more how to apply it more consciously or lucidly. Pair is a wonderful, gifted agent of existence. The third role is the gifted healer, and a few of you are very gifted healers. What it means is you have an existence of fostering people to come to balance around you. It's a light motion quality that angles the rays, and you have to be able to do this in your transfusion, okay? You can angle the rays until somebody comes to balance. Now that's a very gifted role, and even Asur'Ana is not good at that. She's the bright light person. There are some of you that are gifted at angling rays at others to get them to come down, or find their center point, or find their direction, and that really works. So that role of the healer is in Atlantean system is a good one for you. The fourth role is the role of the caregiver. Now, the caregiver and healer are two different roles. The caregiver is somebody who can understand the person's issue in themselves that's disturbed. This is like a master psychologist person. Some of you are master psychologists in your anthology, and you know how to understand the issue in others that is disturbed. If they're disturbed in your presence in any given day, and motion it away so that they're better. That's a master psychologist's position of Atlantean understanding, and you may be very gifted at that if you take on that role, and perhaps you're even a psychologist in life. We call it a caregiver because you're caring for their issues, but if you like the term master psychologist, then take that on instead. Asur'Ana kind of likes that idea because psychologists are good at coaching people out of their delusion, and that's all. But it's also a light wave action to remove the delusion so they're better. Okay? The fifth position is the master truth bearer. This is like the sage or the monk that administers truth in such a manner that the existences rearrange themselves to be all truth oriented in the ashram or the monastery or in the life. There may be a few of you gifted at that, and that's how you navigate your business or navigate your existences, because you just hold the truth. And it pushes everybody else in truth, and then they're aligned with you. The last Atlantean script is the script of emotional accord, that you provide the space of love. You could call it the love keeper as a script, because the ability to hold the emotional accord of love and let people harmonize in it, and then everybody dreams better or alongside themselves together, is a better space. Now, some of you are naturally gifted at that in you, and it is a position of deep grace and beauty to be that in heart space. If you're a person who just feels like you love most everyone, or love is like the most important motion in your life, that's the natural road to go to. We won't speak any more about those scripts except you kind of ascertain in yourself which one really aligns with you, and then you bring that into your center of you, and then the script rearranges for everybody else founded upon one of those 6 positions. You will find your life purpose within Atlantean systems, either aligning for the dreams you're dreaming in relation to your work or your hobbies or your family or your friends or your spiritual focuses, or something may shift because it doesn't align and you may have to make a change in your life. Whatever it is, you're perhaps even sensing this change ahead anyway, and whatever it is, the new script will give you the power with which you can assemblage point your journey of change if that lies ahead for you. For many of you, it's not major changes that you face. It's just a realignment of scripts that harmonize better with you as a star seed with each in your life, and allow you to dream on top of people so that maybe your economy improves because now you can dream a promotion in your corporation, or you can dream more sales if you're in sales, or you can dream a new job that really aligns with you, or you can dream in a new direction because the Atlantean fables always succeed. They're fables of success, and they succeed in proportion to your need because your seed systems don't ever create wealth. I know it would be nice to win lotto or do all these other things, and perhaps you are granted a small lotto curse if that's in your Atlantean script. You go play a little bit bingo and you have $5,000 in your pocket to spend in a new direction. That could happen too, and it could happen in fortuitous experiences of gambling if you like to do such a thing, and it can happen in other ways that you're not thinking that may show up in your life other than a standard means of earning money by going to work. But beware with whatever it is, because it is a position of success and also of being liked by the people you work with or you dance with through time. So be willing to make a change if the job's not right, or make a change if the partnership's not right, or move someplace if that doesn't align with your Atlantean script, and go in the direction that serves you in your new landing of self. So what comes in with this is what's called a landing of self. And self is shadow systems with a striation of consciousness, and in C system it fills your egg. Your consciousness or your awareness fills your seed, and it's not limited to anything and we've been transferring knowledge banks from Shato systems of striation into your seed as a system of striation. But it looks like a net. The net is inside of this seed and throughout it, and is very faint in its colors because knowledge is always carried in different rays of awareness in seed systems. That was true for Shato systems of self-striation, but that's a societal issue and not a seed issue of awareness. And we're setting up these grids to allow you to grow in your awareness rather than shrink through time ahead, because that's the big objective of the Daos that are here. You need to grow your awareness enough to understand yourself enough in this life you have caused, and then let it go when it's time to go home, because you're through if this planet can't heal more, perhaps in the decade ahead. We're not entirely sure, but that may be true for many seas if the planet can't get its act together better than what's happening right now. We don't mean to be grim about it, because your goal is to go live your life with the most passion you can imagine for what you're going to do ahead, and do it in full in what you think is true for you, and do it with the people that you care for, and do it with people you love. Take on projects that you enjoy, and if it is not available in your work system because that's something that you have developed over time and into your middle-aged years, then do it in your hobbies or do it in your dance of some other project that really makes you happy in this world of yourself. Then know that you have fulfilled upon something you're passionate about on this life of yours, because there's no other reason to live really other than to be impassioned about something that you create. If you can't do it at work, do it at home, or find a hobby you really like and find a direction with that you really love. If you love your children and are at home, you're halfway there, because then you can play with them on your weekends. If you don't have children, then love something else at home if you don't have a spouse. If you have a spouse that's kind and is in a bright light position, love them dearly and go up and dance and go and do something wonderful on your weekends, which can be your holidays. If you are alone and you want a spouse, then create that for yourself and put them in the bright light position as you foray for the right partner in this life of yours. In Atlantean dream stream, the partner is the beloved and nothing else. If your partner is not a beloved to you, and sometimes this happens not because of you but because of things you can't control in their mind action, and if their mind action doesn't align with your heart, then the love isn't always there in your motions together. If you find that disturbing over time, you may model them out of your life because it doesn't work for you being where you're headed. Be willing to do whatever it is that you need to do to fulfill upon a beloved space in your home. If you have roommates, make sure that they're in a bright light spot for you, and then they won't drain you through time, and you will have more energy to fulfill upon your dreams and your cares way. And if they're not, change roommates or move someplace else that works for you. Maybe in the end that's better for you because you let yourself choose for a circle of network that supports you to an extreme. That is very important for each of you to have that network of what supports you to an extreme, because in this world of ingratiating systems that are still dark in some ways, the actions are still there that are Luciferian or satanic. Even though the white powder is applied to remove the instruments of the planet and out of people in the hell gates aside. And the white, gold, silver powder is very gifted at doing this. But people in their actions are still weird perhaps, so you understand that you can throw white powder and throw the ray at everyone and fill your buildings with it and fill your homes with it. Let's do that now, okay? So there's 3 things we like to do. One is we want to fill your home with the white, gold, silver ray of truth, of light. We're going to label it that because the truth of light is that there is no darkness. Darkness is something that's supposed to subside, but in the way the light was motioning on the planet, the darkness was growing. And so the Daos and Taos found this substance that they could throw on the darkness and cause it to recede so light can begin to emulsify better on the planet. There are huge gates that have shut, and there's still places to be purified, but purify your own home with the white, gold, silver ray of light. You know that light is light and dark is not, and let go of the dark issues in yourself too. The parts of you that believe it has to be dark, or it needs to be dark, or you have to have dark characters in your life because those things are still seedy, and you can't really change that within you. That's a delusion you need to rise above within you, that there needs to be darkness. The problem is that the society has had its dark issues for so long it's hard for you not to fathom an existence without darkness, because it's just the way that it is. From the mafia to the people that steal from one another, to whatever it is that goes on for the police department in defending and then the chords and all of it. It's just so hard to imagine a world of light. I mean, the whole society has so much darkness. That's not your problem. They dream however they dream. The kids are applying the white light everywhere, and it may change the dream stream in other ways that are unanticipated. It's hard to know exactly what direction it may take, but for you, for everywhere you go and everyone you encounter, you're going to throw white powder at them because it is a powder formula. Let it be that if there's darkness in them, it starts to recede, and therefore they're not going to be dark near you, because you're going to fill them with the truth of light, which is that there's no darkness, and you're going to make yourself basically a channel of that. So today, we're going to set up a channel for the white powder of the truth of light, that there is no darkness, so that the Taos that are coming in of Nemesis can help apply it to regions that you live and to places that are smelly or disordered, or some way of sickness, of hell, or sickness of darkness that is very uncomfortable for spirit and very uncomfortable for the Tao arising back on the planet. And so you be an instrument of that, and that's a beautiful gift. You run it through your molecules again today for a few hours to clear out whatever's crawled in you in gray matter light or some other force that's shown up in the human infrastructure that you couldn't control. There's lots of things leaving, and let it go, because you're going to feel more illuminated and more buoyant in your light systems in the next 8 months because of this ray, but also because of the sacred healing of the Nemesis Tao for you as a star seed. There are other color powders, and she may apply them to your field or to you in Nemesis. There's a blue powder that eliminates fear. There's a green powder that eliminates anxiety and depression. And there's a rose powder that's coming in that's very, very loving to be nurtured in. So today, she's going to fill you with the rose powder inside your seed, in addition to the white powder of illumination of light. Then see how you feel in this body of yours as you syncopate a rhythm as a star seed of who you really are in your new Atlantean script, to play a role that's different in your life than maybe you played before, because you're on center stage and not in somebody else's offshoot of something else they need as some kind of servant to something that you really don't enjoy perhaps in this life of yours at all. Work is often that way. You're a servant to something you don't really enjoy. If that's your plot, then it's time to change your plot to a job that you feel passionate about, and you like the people, and you like what you're doing, and you grow more gracious in you. So now we need to examine your plot with your family. Is that positive or negative? Let's change it to be a positive plot where you love the family of you, okay? And then in the love of the family of you, not only are they bright spots around you in center stage, but some of them will emulate the pink powder at you too, because they just love you so much. So change the plot to be a loving plot of home, and maybe the spouse or partner that's not so wonderful changes their direction too. You never know, so sometimes people gravitate in different directions as you apply your theory of what kind of plot you want for this life of yours. What about your friends? You want a plot to keep care, space, sweetness, honor, and something beautiful for you with them. So realign your plot for friends, for soul family, for kinship, or something beautiful that you can share within, and make sure they're a bright light person in your inner circle. Spend more time with them and enjoy your life a little bit more on your days off as you syncopate a rhythm of deep care with friends of kinship. If your family is kinship and a friend, then let them be in the plot of love, care, space too. And then there's the plot of work. Sometimes this is the one we wonder about the most if you've been doing this work for a long time. You're trying to figure it out, but align it as a plot that works for you, and align it in a plot that you feel some passion for, and align it in a plot that you can handle day to day with people that you really like to be around, and aligns it to a plot of bright light in the workspace. Now some businesses were going dark, some businesses were going medium, and some businesses were going very light in many regions worldwide. Per and Asur'Ana noticed this around the region in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon that they visited a week ago. So they went to the bright light restaurants and stores and nowhere else because it hurts otherwise. Well, as the children all over the globe apply the white powder, the medium and dark stores may fade and go in another direction. But for now, we would advise that you try to work in a space that's bright light systems of dream stream, and it will work better for you as a star seed. If you're working someplace dismal, then it may be time to get your resume together and apply for something else. And so the plot of bright light business may carry you into new infrastructure of needing to find another job and allow it to do so for you, if possible, in the next 4 months or 5 months, because it's not good to be in a dark plot system of a corporation. Atlantean plots don't align with dark plots or medium plots in the current society in a business sense or any sense, because Atlantean systems is for bright light motion, bright light transfiguration, bright light beauty and grace, and system of love that are true to not the planet as much, but true to you as a star seed. So that's the purposeful mission of the Atlantean plot. You may have a plot for something else like spiritual associations. So let's make that a bright light plot, which it should be anyway, but you're going to do that again. If there are people you have met at events you're not sure about that you have put up on your screen, then bless them and love them and let them change position if you let go of whatever mind bent you in the first place. So don't let them mind bend you if you see them again, and then you will change positions and maybe be more supportive of you through time if you gather again. Asur'Ana and pair are making sure that those who gather in their DAS are in harmony with each other, and that's examined carefully because harmony causes light to expand, and this harmony causes it to fold. So be aware of that in any group you gather with, and in time, and even the workspace that's there needs to be harmony even amongst your close association in the office in order for your light to expand. And if they're disharmonious in some way, put them in a not position, and perhaps they will quit or go on in another direction. It's better for you in the end because the Atlantean plot will X people out if it's system of dreaming, and so they can't be there anymore, and that may be useful to you if there's people at work that are very sincerely disharmonious to you or not well with you in some other way. And we'll just explain that in any kind of gear. In Shatar, that was a curtain call. So the curtain closes and the person leaves his job or leaves the family or leaves something else that needs to be left behind, and that's a Shatar curtain call. In Atlantean fables, it's similar. When it's over, it's over. The plot is done and the curtain closes, and the person isn't in your life anymore. If there's a curtain call over a particular job you're really not well in and you foster a new job, then the curtain call goes over the old company as you walk away and pack your desk or whatever you do, and foster the new plot in the new company that's bright white light and more beautiful for you to dance with them. The curtain call can come in any direction of your life with friends or clients that simply need to depart because the mission of them being a client is through, such as the real estate deal has closed now. You may keep the association up to see if there's more business, but perhaps not, and that's true for you as a healer. When you're done healing somebody, if that's your role as a doctor, naturopath, or massage therapist, or whatever you do, when it's through, and you close the curtain, you let them walk away because you're done with your karma. You're done with whatever it is that the plot had to say. That happens in life all the time. As grandparents exited this world, the curtain closes and they leave, and you don't have any action about them anymore. The plot, the script, the Atlantean dream creates the action for you to live and breathe and motion through your world. Each action includes every minute of every day, and when you're finished at work, you change plots and you come home to your home life plot, whatever that may be. If you're alone, it's an alone plot of maybe introspection. If you've got family, it's the dance with your spouse or children or whoever else is there. And the plot shifts in that direction until you go to sleep at night and rest this body of yours, and that's how it is. You are a living dream, a living play, a living reality that's to grow in awareness, so that the last big plot that comes in is that one for self-realization, and that goes on top of whatever other character roles you play as one of the 6 Atlantean systems of that kind of arcana. So you're in arcana as wherever the one of those 6 positions are, and the arcana draws in another arcana, which is the path of self-realization. In the path of self-realization, you come to understand yourself, you come to understand your world, you come to understand your existence, you come to understand your storyline. You come to understand where the plots work and where they don't, and forgive them in people that are odd, and let them either go away or change their direction in your association. That's our master plot. That's our master of plots and a master over people. But out of it, you realize something else about you, that you learn to forgive about others in their delusions, or in their misdirection in life, or in their sad stories, or whatever is going on in the others, in the oligarchy society that we live within. And that's the purposeful mission of understanding how the wheel of plots work within you. Because if they're in a dark spot, you can forgive whatever the issue is that the mind bends you to move them to a medium spot. There are countless issues that you can have usually with family and in your early childhood existence or existence at school into your adult years that create people that mind bend you, and they mind bend you then, and you remember and you encounter the same kind of person and they mind bend you now. If one of your parents mind bend you, then you have people that are like your mother or father that show up and you go, dang, I can't stand that kind of person. I never loved that mother that screamed at me and mind bent me or interfered or whatever happened. If that was your childhood, and some of you didn't have that kind of time in childhood and had a lot more beauty and grace in your family script. But whatever it is, when you encounter that kind of person again, you can choose not to let them mind bend you by forgiving the issue that gets triggered deep within your heart. Usually there are heart wounds in relation to the people who either deflower your cortex or mind bend you to an extreme. And if you can find your space to grow your heart beyond the condition that is shadowed in an early experience of parallel nature, you will transform yourself in another direction where that kind of mind bowl or mind bend just doesn't grow near you ever again. That's the power of love, because the bigger the heart grows, the more that the play and the plot clear to be loving of you and nurturing of you in this life of yours. People who mind bowl aren't loving characters, but as you love enough, they will either leave or change directions in your life, and that's the power of love. Love is the most powerful and the biggest force of change in any life, in any planet, in any galaxy, anywhere. And there's a very sad condition of very little love on the planet. That's why a beautiful Tao created the pink powder of the truth of love to add to the white powder of the truth of light, and to give it to the children first and the star seeds too. So we leave you with that thought, that your goal is to learn to love yourself and love everyone if you can, in spite of the condition of who they are, because they can't change that anyway. You can only change you in your position in relation to them, and when you do, the problem subsides and life changes. And you go in another direction, and they do too. And that's the force of love. We bless you today with all the healing you're going to receive into this morning, afternoon, or evening as you rest. And we bless you in deep care of all that is, from the nemesis galaxies of ourselves and the well galaxies of herself. Namaste.